Hi guys, and welcome to Cold Climatic Injuries. In this video, we're going to cover frostbite and hypothermia. So let's start. Okay, let's start with frostbite. And let's start with the definition of frostbite. The definition is damage to our body tissues that is caused by exposure to extreme cold. And this usually happens in the peripheral organs. So it's usually our fingers, our toes, our ears, and the nose. Okay, now let's cover the signs. If a person gets frostbite in his fingers, for example, then his fingers are going to be a bit more bluish. On top of that, he will lose some of the sensation in the fingers. He might get some blisters, and the damaged organ might be a tiny bit smaller. Okay, now let's go over the treatment. The first thing you want to do, if it's possible, you want to take him to a warmer place. If his clothes are wet, then you want to change his clothes. And then it's very recommended to check his temperature. Just in case that he may be suffering from hypothermia, it would be a good idea to check. After that, you would want to isolate the organ, which basically means you want to put a ton of layers on the organ. So for example, if I got frostbite on my fingers, it would be a good idea to put on gloves. I can put on very thin gloves, and above that I can put on like thicker gloves. It would be a very good idea to isolate the area to warm it up. And lastly, you'd want to take him to the hospital. Now keep in mind, there are some things that you would want to avoid. You would never want to rub the area. You don't want to rub the area, and you don't want to poke the blisters. At the end of the day, if you have frostbite, you will have less feeling in the area, and you might injure yourself by rubbing it or touching it or poking it. That's also why you would want to avoid bandaging the area. At the end of the day, this is not really a bleeding injury. You don't want to apply direct pressure on it, and you don't want to apply elastic bandages or any kind of bandages. You would just want to warm the place up. And lastly, you would want to avoid applying direct heat on the area. At the end of the day, you will have less feeling in the area if you have frostbite, and applying heat isn't a good idea at all. I know that there was a story in the army that I heard about some guys who were guarding when it was snowing in a cold place, and because they were near a car, so they had this brilliant idea to turn on the car and put their hands on the engine to warm their hands. And what happened was that when they took their hands off the engine, their skin was still glued to the hood of the car. So again, direct heat, not a good idea. Definitely not. Don't put your hands in hot water or anything like that. However, and I'm a bit hesitant to recommend this, however, if you have a friend with you that doesn't have any, that his hands are not cold at all and he doesn't have any frostbite or anything, then he can put on some warm water that you can put your hands in, and that might help. But make sure they're not hot. Don't ever apply direct heat on cold climatic injuries. Okay, that is how you treat frostbite. Now let's jump over to hypothermia. Okay, now let's talk about hypothermia. The definition of hypothermia is when the body's temperature drops below 35 degrees Celsius if we check rectally, or 35.5 degrees Celsius if we check orally. The main causes of hypothermia is if we have wet clothes, if we're not prepared for the cold weather, if we lost a lot of blood, if we were static and we didn't move enough in these cold weathers, and lastly, if we're treating our patient on a cold surface, then he might get hypothermia as well. Okay, now let's talk about the signs. There are two levels of hypothermia. There is the mild hypothermia and the severe hypothermia. Mild hypothermia is when our patient has above 32 degrees Celsius when we're checking rectally, And severe hypothermia is when he has below 32 degrees Celsius if we're checking rectally. Now, the signs for mild hypothermia is that our patient is going to act apathic. He's not going to react too much to what is going on. He's going to shiver a lot because he's going to be very cold. His fingertips are going to be shaded a bit bluish. He's going to breathe fast, and he's going to have a fast pulse. You could say that mild hypothermia is when our patient's body is still capable of defending itself. The reason why his pulse is faster and the reason why he is shivering is because his body is trying to warm himself up. Now, severe hypothermia is when the body can't really defend itself anymore. A person who has severe hypothermia is not going to be shivering. Usually, he will have vague or he will completely be unconscious. His breathing is going to be slow, and as well as his pulse. He's going to have a slow pulse. You could say that in severe hypothermia, the systems of the body are starting to collapse. Okay, now let's go over the treatment. The treatment is pretty straightforward. Our goal is to warm him up. So, the first thing we would want to do is to take him to a warmer place, if it's possible. If it's not possible, we at least want to take him away from the rain, make sure he's not laying on a cold surface, and just take him, make the place warmer if we can. It can be also a good idea to take him even into a vehicle and put on the AC on heat as much as we can. Our goal is to put him to a warmer place. Second, we would want to take off his wet clothes if they are wet. And then we would want to put as much layers as we can on him of different fabrics. We can use shirts, jackets, blankets. We just want to make sure that he is tied up in lots of layers and that he is getting warmer. Now, it's very important that we also check his temperature. If we have a thermometer, then it's usually preferably that we check it. We check his rectum temperature. Again, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. You can check it orally as well. Usually, it's recommended that you check it rectally though. You want to check it first to make sure that he is actually having hypothermia. And second, you want to find out how severe is it. And you want to check every 10 minutes to make sure that it is getting better. And lastly, you'd want to obviously evacuate him. Now keep in mind, if he is unconscious, then we should be worried about his airway. This is correct for any person who is unconscious. If someone is unconscious, then he might not be breathing. So we want to also make sure that his airway is open on top of all of those things, if we can. Now keep in mind, there's a few basic things that you need to make sure that you avoid. Now these are pretty obvious, but I have to say them anyway. So first, don't use direct heat. Like with frostbite, also with hypothermia, you don't want to use direct heat. And so if you have a heat pack, that is amazing for treating hypothermia. However, make sure that you wrap it around in a towel or two, or that you make sure there's a few layers that are separating between your patient and the heat pack. Make sure that you are not treating him on a cold surface. And also, if you are taking off his wet clothes, or when you are checking his temperature, make sure that you're not leaving him naked for more than a few seconds. And lastly, if you have a patient who is conscious, then don't give him alcohol to warm up. I know that alcohol gives you the feeling that you're feeling warm inside, but the thing is, alcohol actually doesn't warm you at all, and it only makes you cool down a lot more. So never ever use alcohol to warm up yourself, and don't give your patient, when he's having hypothermia, don't give him alcohol. It's going to be a bad idea. Okay guys, and that is it for frostbite and hypothermia. Now personally, I have a few tips for you guys of how to avoid injuries in cold climates. First off, and I know these ones are pretty obvious, but make sure that you are properly prepared. Before going to cold places, I really recommend checking the forecasts, making sure that there is not going to be any kind of storm that you're not expecting. You want to make sure that you get proper clothes and that you prepare. On top of that, it's really recommended that you change your socks often, that you get some backup clothes that you can put in your backpack in case that your clothes get wet. It could be a lifesaver. I really recommend taking breaks, eating some hot food, drinking some hot beverages. And lastly, if you are in an extremely cold place, make sure that you don't drink too much. Now, I don't mind, you guys can party all night. I'd love you guys to have fun. Just make sure that you don't overdo it, especially in cold places. Okay, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.